In this video, we're going to discuss what is a management system. What does that even mean? Well, an analogy I like to use is a vehicle's cockpit. There's all sorts of things going inside that cockpit, and some of it is your management system. Some of it, of course, is for your entertainment, which perhaps is a distraction to your management system. But let's use the reasons your management system exists as a way to look at that car cockpit. So the first thing is we must pay attention to what's important. Now, what's important changes over time based on your strategy, based on your priorities, based on different phases of work or even seasons. So how do we pay attention to what's important? Well, that also means paying less attention to other things. So we should be paying attention to the road. We should be focused on where we're going and what we're doing, looking for anomalies out on the landscape. That's where our attention should be. And so a lot of what the management system is doing is making sure we're not distracted by those other things and we're actually able to pay attention to what's most important. Well, even the information it does give us, a lot of that is things that draws attention to what we should be paying attention to. For example, we have a lot of control over our speed. It's also a very important variable in driving. And so our management system in the vehicle often makes that very easy to pay attention to. It might put it next to the speed limit if it has that information. You might have a heads-up display where it makes it even easier to pay attention to it. There's also things like collision warning. When you're coming up on a vehicle too fast, it lets you know. It, of course, can actually take over and brake for you. That's paying attention to what's most important in that situation. So whether it's continuous, your speed, or situational, a collision warning, a good management system helps you pay attention to what is most important at that point in time. Second thing is it helps you set direction. Where are you going? What are you trying to do? How are you trying to navigate your work, your team's work, your organization's work moving forward? Well, GPS is a good example of this as part of your cockpit, as part of your management system. Now, go back to the days when we had road maps. A road map doesn't tell you where you are. It doesn't tell you where you want to go. It doesn't even tell you how to get there. It just gives you a lay of the land. Well, GPS, at this point, helps us figure out all of those things. It can give you prompts about where you might want to go and help simplify that. It helps tell you where you are, and it helps you navigate both the optimal path, but also navigating detours. So how do we give information to the work, in this case the driving, or whatever your particular work could be, whether product development or sales or finance? How do we give information to the work that sets direction, takes us in the direction we want to go, and helps us navigate to get there? The third thing is it helps you find a problem. We can spend a lot of time, we have a lot of meetings looking for problems, looking for anomalies, looking for abnormal conditions so that we can, of course, address them before they get too far out of control. So a good management system helps us find problems. Now, how does it do that in the car? Well, it could be something like a low tire pressure warning. Now, in that case, it often will tell you not just that you have low tire pressure, but how much and which tire. It gives you information that you can act on immediately. There's also more subtle examples of helping you find a problem. A check engine light, for example, just tells you that you have something wrong. You should probably pull over, talk to an expert, and get your car looked at. It won't tell you what the cause is, it won't tell you why it exists, it won't tell you how to solve it, but it will let you know that there is a problem. And our management system should run the gamut. It should highlight in subtle ways where there's a problem and we need to use our curiosity and understanding of cause and effect to figure it out. And there's other instances where it should tell us exactly what we need to do in order to resolve that problem. So a good management system helps us solve a problem. The fourth thing it does is it helps us monitor low risk items, low probability items behind the scenes. So the severity could be significant, but the probability is low enough that we don't have to pay a lot of attention to it. It's just paying attention to it behind the scenes. It lets us know when we need to pay attention to it. Now, the reason I highlight this, distinguishing it from finding a problem, is that it takes it out of our attention span when we don't have to worry about it. So your oil level used to be something that every once in a while when you fill up your car, or depending on the age of your car, every time you fill up your car with fuel, you also check the oil pressure or check the oil levels. Well, we don't do that anymore. Right? The car tells us when we have an oil problem. And so we don't have to worry about that. It doesn't have to enter into our mind. The car, the management system is taking care of that for us. And so a good management system helps remove from our attention span things that we don't need to pay attention to, instead of us trying to pay attention to everything all at once. So in a lot of ways, our management system is an attention span management system. It helps us draw our attention to what's important, set direction, move forward, and bring our energy, bring our focus to where it's needed most. Now, it's important to understand, where are we looking for our management systems? How are we drawing boundaries around them? The first thing I should say is that our management systems are a combination of the formal mechanisms and the informal mechanisms. If you look to see how many cars are in the parking lot at a certain hour of the day, that's part of your management system. It's an indicator telling you what's going on. Every time you open your inbox for email, that is part of your management system. It's drawing your attention to certain things. If you walk around and check with certain people, see how things are going, get a sense of things, that's part of your management system. And so it's important to understand that these are both formal, such as meetings, and informal, such as checking in with people or just looking out over the organization. Now, they also occur at sort of every level of the organization. We have our individual management systems. So what helps us individually pay attention? Now, as an individual contributor, that might be fairly simple. It could be a project plan, an inbox, and a team meeting. If you're in management, it might be more involved, but there's still, what is drawing attention for me? How am I managing myself? How am I managing my attention span? For example, for me, I use Trello as a tool to manage my to-do list, but it also has indicators on it that help me understand, am I ahead, am I behind, are things working as normal or not, what's important and what's less important. I time box certain days. That helps me, again, tell how I'm performing, whether things are normal or abnormal, and I have metrics where I measure my own work. Those are all aspects of my individual management system. We also have a management system at a team level, whether it's team huddles or team meetings, metrics, etc. All that is done at a team level. And that's where it perhaps seems most obvious. At any level, you're part of a team. Whether or part of two teams, depending on where you are in the organization, and that team has a management system. And then there's an organizational management system. It's made up of all the teams, and there's some common threads that tie the whole organization together, and that is part of your management system as well. So if you're the CEO, you're worried about the enterprise or organizational management system, but also your team and your individual management system. This happens at all levels, and it's not really that useful to draw really firm boxes around where you're talking, because it is so integrated, it's integral, it's interconnected. There's fuzzy lines between the work and the management systems. So don't worry about being too precise about your definition, but understand what's going on around you and what is part of your management system and what is just the work that's happening. In addition to the explanation we've already given, let me provide this visual explanation just to help a little bit more. So it doesn't matter what the work is, a big complicated process, an individual task. We have the work itself. That's what really matters in the organization. But along the way, we also have the management system, which in a lot of ways acts as a wrapper, a boundary around that work. And so this boundary has, several purposes, distinct purposes. One is, some input or boundary conditions that help guide the work. It gives direction as an input, so we know where not to go. We know how not to stray. We know what direction is forward. It also helps us understand when we're off standard. So if we're, headed out of control and we've wandered into the wrong territory or performing poorly, well, that can be detected. And whether it's within the team that they can get us back or requires external push or external corrective action, that can be done as well. It can also help provide, changes. If we want to change direction and start heading in a different direction, we can make those shifts as inputs. And then along with this is that, most work has to be done in conjunction with other work. And so our management systems, integrate, they overlap, they interface in ways that help them make sure that, this piece of work and this piece of work are all working together. That one that feeds the next or relates to the next, they're coordinated, they're headed in the same direction, etc. So kind of understand it as a protective informational layer around the work, supporting the work, and providing direction to the work. And so when we see it that way, it's very clear who the customer is. The work itself is the customer of our management system.